And I was feeling like, Lord, I'm never gonna be good enough. That was the record that was playing in my mind. Today we're talking about desire with Dr. Libby Adams as we go beyond mindset.
Welcome. I'm your host, Krista Tejada, and along with the Holy Spirit and some very special guests, our mission is to armor you and ignite your faith with all the practical tools, steps, and habits necessary to avoid the pits of a prolonged time in the wilderness. Together, let's tune into grace and go beyond the wilderness.
We're going to talk more about the conscious and the unconscious and how the voices in our head might or may not be supporting you. So let's get to it. So last week when we left off, I said to you, man, I feel bad. Maybe I was talking too much.
It's like I've done a lot of interviews and podcasts and different things. And usually it's like somebody's just asking me questions and it's like the me show. It's like the Libby show. But I really thought it was way more fun and more interesting, and I think more interesting to the audience to have an interaction. So if I have something to say, then you had your response to that, or you had something to say, I had a response. So it was more of a natural flow, and I found it more interesting and authentic.
Yes. Yes, and we're all about being authentic. You say in desire in the definition box, some of your desires are conscious and some of them are non-conscious. So you can recognize your non-conscious by what is happening in your life, by what you're manifesting in your life. So what happens in my mind, if something's going maybe bad, right? Like in an off season, that I begin to think to myself like, man, have I done something wrong? Is God punishing me? And so I wonder if you would elaborate on that for the Jesus follower who might be wondering, who understands the power of mindset, who understands the power of awareness, understands the power of the Word of God, but they're not getting out of life what they desire. What would you say to them?
I'd say, I don't know if they are doing all the right things, right? And like, what is the list of all the right things? Part of one of the right things is to let God have God's own timing. So if we're doing what we think is the right things and we're saying, but I'm not getting out what I wanted, it's like, well, God's delays are not God's denials, right? So maybe one of the things we're not doing right is to allow God time to work in His time frame, where it says, my ways are not your ways, and that we should not lean to our own understanding. So that can be off. Do you know what? That's usually the number one suspect, that somebody just had the wrong time frame. Yeah. I remember when I took my NLP training in 1991, the trainer said, there are no unrealistic goals, only unrealistic time frames. So then what we do is we just adjust the time frame and keep going. And then we say, nothing has gone wrong. Nothing has gone, it's my favorite phrase, nothing has gone wrong. We just got the time frame wrong. We just keep going. So that's what I would say for starters. But that didn't actually address the first thing that you were talking about. Some of your desires are non-conscious, right? So people don't know who they are a lot of times. We use the word I, and we just assume that we know what I means. But I say there are three versions of you. There's you, your spiritual self. This is the one that's made in the image and likeness of God. Because if you think about that, a lot of people are like, what does that even mean, that I'm made in the image and likeness of God? Do I look like God? If it's like a physical replica? No, our spiritual self, right? We're made out of the God DNA, right? We've got the God DNA. That's really who we are. And the way we know that's who we are is because nothing else is going with us. When our spirit lifts out of our body, you call a person dead, right? But in this life, you know how we're spiritual beings, but we're human beings. So we're overlapping between this flesh and the spirit, right? And so when the spirit comes into the body is like our equipment. Like when somebody goes into the military, they get a uniform and boots and and a gun and whatever else they get, a hat and all that stuff, right? We get a body. Body has a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And in that subconscious mind, there are different voices, and some are helpful and some are not. Some are like, yo, you'll never do it. Oh, who do you think you are, right? And that's what I call the little eyes. So on this page, there's you, the spiritual being. There's you, who we would call Krissa. This is the human being.
Right.
And you have free will. You say, I'm going to have a grape. No, I'll have 2 pears. And this third voice of I is, I can't do it. I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy. It's like, so we're using the word I in 3 different contexts. So the way you can know that you have these little voices, even if you don't hear it, is what I was saying is, you, Krissa, have desire. Like you have a desire to do this work that we're doing, recording, and you have a desire to help, help people. We have a desire for world peace and love and, everybody to serve God and be good servants and all that. And then this also has desires, but they're not taking us where we want to go. For example, George says, now remember on desire, Krista, when you were reading that today, Napoleon Hill talks about the formula for success. He said it's got 3 components. Formula of success: desire, a good plan, and right action. We can't just have desire and think that's going to do it. So sometimes people aren't. That's another thing, that they don't have a good plan, and that's why they don't get it. Or they may have a good plan and they're not taking the right action. So it has to be those 3 components together. Now, so let's say George, right here, George says, I'm going to lose weight, and my good plan is I won't eat desserts for 30 days. And his wife says, yeah, that's a good plan. But when he goes to a party and there's his favorite chocolate cake, and it's almost as if like the devil's like, poof, oh, it's our favorite cake. Let's have some cake. The angel's like, no, we're losing weight. No, we can start. We can start on Monday. What's another couple of days, right? So like listen to those voices conflicting, right? And then it's like George's head is in a tennis match going, from the devil to the angel on that. And so he has the cake. Because the conscious mind is only, like you've heard people say, you're only using 10% of your mind, right? So between a battle between 10% of the mind and the other 90, which is subconscious, he doesn't stand much of a chance with his willpower and all that. So George eats the cake. He gets home. His wife says, see, George, I knew you didn't want to lose weight. But I do want to lose weight. Would that be true to say he didn't want to lose weight because he ate the cake? It would not be true. George wants to lose weight. But there was a part of him that had a desire for cake. So we have 2 conflicting desires. And so what we say is, no, George does want to lose weight. He just does not have the subconscious infrastructure to be successful. So we've got to work on the subconscious programming and get those parts in alignment with the we're losing weight program.
It brings up so many questions for me. I find that, well, first of all, the good plan, right? Like in talking about God's timing, right? Like I often will get ahead of God's timing because I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm excited. But I don't wait. I don't do the everyday, like check in with him, abiding in him. I do the get up out of bed, I got a lot to do kind of thing. And then all of a sudden at the end of my day, I find myself overwhelmed, resentful, and worn out. And that I could make it months before I even realize, wait a second, I forgot to check in with God and see what he wanted me to do. And so that's like my number one thing that I'm working on, that's becoming my daily discipline before I even get up out of bed. It's like one of my favorite questions. Like yesterday I was talking to my dad and I said, Dad, like, what is it that you do, in your daily discipline to stay connected to Jesus every day? And so I love asking that question of people because it is different for everybody. It's not the same for everybody. And that daily discipline of checking in with the Lord and finding out his will for us, then we can, because the Lord has given us this desire, and
Yes.
he also has the plan, and has equipped us. So it's all in working with him, which
That's why we call this segment Beyond Mindset, because it's not just about your positive thoughts. You can have a lot of good ideas, but it's still your will, right? Beyond Mindset is we want the mind of Christ, for heaven's sakes, right? We want to be in God's will, because that's where the power is. If this is the God train, then we should be on it. We should not have the God train pulling out of the station and we're over here in the weeds doing our will. It's like that's just a bad idea. That is a bad plan.
right.
If we're talking about beyond mindset, then what can we do to have what is beyond mindset? It's spiritual. It's the spiritual connection, and that's what you were talking about. Mm-hmm. There's a simple exercise that people could do to just put their two hands out. They can imagine the Lord in one hand and then themselves in the other. Just visualizing it like here's the Lord and here's me. And then have yourself look over and go, oh, look, there's the Lord. And the Lord's like, hello. And you're like, hello. And then just bring your hands together and be still. I love that the Bible quote, be still and know that I am God. If someone will just like connect like that and just be still for maybe even 60 seconds so the Lord can speak. So you're there saying, I have ears to hear, right? I'm all ears, Lord. Mm-hmm. And God's not going to talk, for a 15-minute sermonette. It's going to be maybe 3 words, 5 words. I love you. I'm here for you. Whatever, right? Come follow me. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. That is the shortest meditation in the world. I love that one. I'm not a fan of mindfulness meditation where you're focusing on something and then your mind wanders and then you bring it back and then your mind wanders and then you bring it back. And like, why don't we just focus one time?
Yes.
60 seconds tops. Hi, Lord. Hi. I'm listening. And then when it's done, if your mind wanders, then you're done. You did it, right? Yep. We created a space of stillness. That is one of the things that I would call beyond mindset.
Yes.
Spiritual connection is the deal. It's the juice. Okay.
Yes.
You know that. I just get excited talking about it.
Absolutely. Yes. It's all good. I get very excited too. In your introductory video, and I have the link below, you share the story of the little girl on stage.
The way we get parts, the parts have the voices that say, I'm not lovable. I'm no good. No one loves me. All these voices that people hear, that is normal to hear these things, but we don't want them. Just because it's normal doesn't mean we want to have these voices. So the way these parts get created in the first place is when we say something or accept something that is not true. Mm-hmm. So if this is the truth, and I say anything that's opposing to the truth and lie cannot exist in the same place at the same time, so a part splits off. Mm-hmm. So, and you'll hear people say, on one hand, I know I'm lovable, but on the other hand, I just don't feel like it, mm-hmm. right? Or part of me feels lovable and the other part feels like nobody loves me. And they're literally showing you your two hands. They're showing you the separation. I call that the separated self. Mm-hmm. So the way it gets created in this example of the little girl, so the little girl has her school play and her mom's a single mom. She says, Mom, can you come to the school play tomorrow? And the mom says, no, I have to work. And she's like, oh, okay. She's disappointed. But then the day comes, it's the next day, and the little girl's waiting in the wings, getting ready to come out and do her part. And you know how kids are so eternally optimistic. So she opens the curtain. She said, maybe my mommy will be here after all. And so she starts to look in the audience and she makes this analysis, which actually isn't correct because there are 500 people there. She says, oh, the mommies are here, but my mommy doesn't love me. I'm a bad girl. If I was a better girl, my mommy would be here. And so this part, that none of that's true.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, mom's working to pay for that costume that she's wearing, right? But when here she is in wholeness and she says, my mommy doesn't love me, I'm no good, I'm not lovable, and all that. And that's how a part gets created. And once it splits off, it's like in the polar ice caps. Once that water falls into the water, it keeps on going, and it cannot be retrieved by just saying, like 35 years later in her marriage, she's saying, my husband doesn't love me. And it's that same voice, right? Mm-hmm. That dates back from the time that part split off when she was 5. The part stayed frozen in time. They never move forward. So what we have to do is get the mind, using the mind of God, go back and retrieve that part and bring it forward into the now, back into the wholeness. But only God can do that. You can't talk, because everybody knows you try and talk yourself into stuff. Oh, I'm lovable. I'm, with the affirmations, and then you're like, yeah, no, I don't feel lovable. So these little eyes, or the parts that split off, they will not listen to logic because they live in the subconscious mind.
Right.
And the subconscious mind's job is not logic. It's emotion. So it's like, yeah, I don't care what you say. I don't feel lovable.
Right. I think that's so important to note, is that it's not logic. It doesn't make sense. Like, you can't rationalize this part. Like, so that makes me think about, like, one of the things that I have struggled with so much in my life, and even still today, is that comparison to other moms, to other homeschoolers in particular. Like, I'll be like, oh man, like, they're doing it, they make it look so good. I am failing every day. Like, I don't want anybody to see inside my walls because they would just, blah, blah, blah. And it's a daily thing. And in fact, that's why I have to stay off social media primarily and have very, very strict boundaries for myself, because there's that part of me that wants to believe those lies, that wants to believe that I'm failing, that wants to believe I'm no good. And of course, with your help and understanding, bringing awareness to these negative thoughts and these parts that have broken off, right? Sometimes, I won't even like realize that's what's happening until down the way. And I'll be like, I have to really ask myself, okay, my day is going just totally chaotic. Taking that time, just like you said, and not a like long meditation period, but just like, Jesus, help me. Like, it's just the simplest call out, like, Jesus, I need you, please help me. And then realizing, wait a second, oh, I know, I didn't start my homeschool day with prayer today. I didn't set my kids up for success. I didn't set myself up for success. I hit snooze maybe, and instead of getting up and having my prayer time and having my quiet time, I just jumped, into the to-dos, and therefore I've had a chaotic day. And I can stop that right now. I don't have to like hark on it. Oh shoot, I messed up, right? I can say, all right, let's go back and reconnect with Jesus. Let's invite him into this day, into this conversation, and let's ask him for what I need. Lord, I need grace. I need patience. Help me to be a good teacher to my son who is struggling in this area. And being able to recognize that, and like you said, like, it's not just enough to replace it with an affirmation and get really good at like trying to reprogram. We have that nurturing of that part of ourself. It's like, because I found years of not really acknowledging that part of me, or those parts of me that had broken off. I had gotten really good at masking them, right? Mm-hmm. I got really good at just like stuffing them down and putting on a mask and just putting on a brave face. But over time, what ended up happening was resentment, bitterness. My heart was growing hardened. And I was feeling like, Lord, I'm never gonna be good enough. That was the record that was playing in my mind. Like, okay, I just gotta keep going. I just, not really going back to the source and saying, Lord, I need you. Like, I'm feeling broken in these places. I can't do it without you. I don't want to do it without you. I know there's a better way. I was 35 before I really understood what it meant to walk with Jesus, what it really meant to receive his gift of salvation, when I really received his grace. And that's really what I discovered, is that I want to be a vessel of his love. I want to serve other people. You know, the greatest commandments are to serve God and to serve our neighbor, and that's everybody else. That's to remind myself, you know, I'm a child of God. I'm where I'm supposed to be, because if he wanted me somewhere else, I would be there. And just trusting in his plan, because his plan is always better than mine.
He's always got the superior plan. And if we are smart, in week 3, we call it Smart Week. Smart Week is about surrendering to his plan. It's like, if he has a plan and I have a plan, wouldn't it be smarter for me to go with his plan? And that's what your whole 3rd week is about. You know, we're talking about comparisons. So how about between here and next week, you and I offline will do an exercise with the comparison thing. And then you can give your report on how you're feeling about comparison and whether that actually is important or not. And then also next week, we could talk about, how do you discern and distinguish among the voices in your head?
That would be wonderful. You know, to be able to tune out those voices in the head that are not supporting where you want to go, and to tune into God, because when we're in his will and his plan, like you said, it's always a smarter plan. So look forward to that
smarter
next
plan.
week.
Okay,
yeah.
Fair enough.
Just wrapping up, you know, talking about, you know, desire, clarity, talking about the subconscious and the conscious mind, and just how simple it is that if you are finding yourself struggling in the day, it's just a simple call out to Jesus. And if you need to go further than that, then like Libby said, you can visualize Jesus in one hand and the part of you that is hurting and struggling in the other hand. Because no matter how you feel in the world, God sees you, God loves you, Libby and I love you, and we want to see you win. So if you are struggling in some way, if you would benefit from, you know, if I could pray for you, if you need to get connected, if you need support in any way, please reach out to us. My information is in the description below, and you can always get in touch with Libby as well through the link to check out her introductory 28-day course. I really encourage you to check that out. It has been life-changing for me and my family and my business. So with that being said, we will continue the conversation next time, and perhaps we will be sharing some results on how I do some maybe transformation meditation on that part of me that really struggles with comparison, and I can share the results with you all. So I just hope that you're having a blessed day and you have a great week. And Libby, as always, I appreciate you and your time and your knowledge and your expertise and spending your time and your afternoon with us. So thank you so much. I love you, and I love you all out there. And we will see you again next time.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Bye for now.